Hello, welcome to Graceful Embroidery. Today I'm going to show you how the Father Christmas developed. He started out as a flat embroidery, but as I looked at him and considered my angels, which many of you are probably familiar with, I thought, I think I can make him so that he's dimensional, so he can stand up. Now we all know the wonderful Father Christmas dolls or ornamental dolls that you can buy that are very, very expensive. My idea was to try and make him something like that, but all done on our embroidery machine. Now this is how we started off, and this is the skirt, which very cleverly, now this one I haven't stitched out the backing, it's just felt with all the stitches on, and as you can see I've put crystals on and hot fix flat stars, and this just bends round. I'm just going to pin it in just to show you how, when this is embroidered out on felt, how strong it is. And that cone will stand upright. Okay, now I'll just lay that down here. You see what a difference putting the crystals on, and there are several videos on my YouTube channel which show you how I put those on. Now to begin with, this was my first attempt at the top section, and as you can see it's done in 2 stitch outs. Only his hat is embroidered, and again the main part is just the red felt. And this is how the first edition of him went, and I very carefully put the 2 bits together and overlocked on my sewing machine round the top there and down there, and I did find it's better to do it twice. And no doubt you've seen the pictures. That sits on the top there, and there we can see our Father Christmas. Now that was the first stage. Then I thought again, and I decided that actually he looked better if he had sloping shoulders, so they come down in a curve like this. Sorry, there's got a few threads there that need trimming off. Let's trim those off. And again, what I tend to do is I overlock all around here, not necessarily on an overlock. It works quite well if you just do it on a zigzag stitch on your machine. Do it once, trim any bits that are sticking out, and then do it again. Then, very kindly, a few of you did some investigations for me and found this wonderful faux fur trim. It's 2.5 mils wide, and it's on a lovely satin ribbon. When you attach it, you've just got to be very careful that all the fur is pointing downwards, but it's quite easy to do. And doesn't it transform him? Now I've thought long and hard about, let's just get rid of that fluff. I haven't secured the edges of this one quite yet, but you get the drift of how it's going to be. Obviously you can't put fur up on these bits, but here's the trim, and it's on this satin ribbon, and it's overlocked to that, and you've just got to, stitch out the edging and place it there, and you've just got to sew along this little bit here so that it attaches to the bottom of the cone there. And doesn't that look wonderful? And the 2 together, that's how they'll look. Now let me show you about this stitch out here that I've got. Let's zoom in a little bit. Oh, a bit too far. I decided that if we were going to be looking for something that's very elaborate and luxurious looking, that I needed to see, obviously, if you're making the dimensional Father Christmas, he comes in 2 sizes. The large one will stitch out in hoops that are 8-inch wide. The smaller Father Christmas will stitch out in hoops that are 6-inch wide. He's 10% smaller. But you may not want to embroider him out on felt, because felt is it's lovely to embroider on, but there's also it's not so luxurious. So here you can see, and if you've got a big hoop, you can do these two tops in one hooping. Now I've stitched these out in the paler version, and I've not done the fill-in bits here. I made a slight mistake here. This part of the back stitches out in the same colour as the edging, so I had to stop my embroidery machine and go back and do that in the ivory. Be very careful when you're using lots of different colours. His eyebrows are a very silver grey, 1325. I've given him lovely blue eyes, and his hair is 1002, which is a soft white, but his beard and his hat and his whiskers here are done in an off-white. So because you've got quite a lot of texture here, they stand out. In the designs you'll find that the skin tone is a pale pink. I used oyster for this, which is 1085, because I wanted a little bit of contrast, and I think that works. For this particular one, I've missed out the little circular, these little circular embroideries. I've done the stars in metallic, so that means because I've not done those little circles, I've got some gaps, and into those gaps I'm going to put some crystals. I've discovered a new website here in the UK called Blue Streak Crystals, and look at these. I'm trying to, but the first time I stitched the paler or the cream version of the Father Christmas, I used this blue here, and I honestly think it's too warm a blue. We're looking for an icy look, so this time round I've used a different blue, and I think it works very well. And look at all these lovely crystals that I can put on here. They are really going to give it some depth. And if you've never used crystals, then let me encourage you to. All the designs finish with the pom-pom, so that you can exclude it if you want to put a pom-pom on. I sent away for these ones online. They weren't so successful as the fur trim, which is just the perfect width. These are just a little bit small, so but they could go on the front, and there are lots of different uses. And they came in a bag of white, red and green. Now here's the skirt, or the lower part of the Father Christmas, and as you can see, it's stitched on the ivory silk, and I've done the same colour for these scrolls and flowers as the base or the background of the centre bit there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this out. The purpose of doing this is to see whether it, with the stabiliser on the back, whether it will stand up or whether it will need some hard interfacing like Pelham, which is I use for my angels. And then these two will be cut out, sewn together around the edge. Because I've made a mistake here, I really should have done this in the cream, so that I could do cream all the way around there. But that's how I like to show you my mistakes so that you can see what I've learned. And as you can see, if you've stitched out in a cream and you try and do white over the top, it does show through. So when this is all done, I'm going to show you what the results are. And then after that, I'm going to try and stitch him out on velvet. I have some dark red velvet, which I think would be absolutely gorgeous. But velvet is difficult to embroider on, and it also has a lot of weight to it. So that's going to be a challenge, and I'll show you how that turns out in a later video. So that's my ivory silk dupion Father Christmas, and he's waiting to be put together, embellished with crystals. I don't think I put any pearls. I've got this gorgeous one here. It's always been one of my favourites. It's like an ocean opal. It's a bit too green actually, but that one will work, and I think perhaps that one will, but I shall have to see. Sometimes you just need to see what colours go with it. That's quite turquoisey really, but these lighter ones will be perfect. So I'll show you that when it's all complete, and in a later video I'll show you how successful I was in embroidering out the Father Christmas on red velvet, and this is red silk velvet. I have a roll of it left from a project of many years ago.
Now, I found when I trimmed the sections of the Father Christmas, providing I was careful and trimmed just a little bit away from the satin stitches, that all went well. As you can see here's the lower section. If you're concerned in any way, then a little bit of fray check will hold everything in place. I pinned the fur around the bottom, and there's a little, I would do a couple of attempts at this just to see how it goes, the best way of attaching it so that it sits nicely when it's finished. And I confess that I did it by hand rather than on my machine, because you've got lots of fur there, your stitches aren't going to show, and it's more a case of watching the fibres of the fur as you're going. So hand stitching is adequate. Then I took the two sections, and as you see here, I put the overlock stitches on my machine and very carefully stitched the two bits together, making sure that the satin stitches just were within the satin border so that they weren't terribly obvious. And here you can see a close-up of it, and if you're not quite happy with the effect and there's bits sticking out, trim it and then go over it again. I was really delighted with how the Father Christmas, this silk one, went together. It looked good. You just got to be a little bit careful as you trim up the front bits and round his beard. But here you can see the fur attached, and that went well, and I started putting stars and crystals on here. You can see we've got little stars up the centre, and I have put some pearls on too. So you roll round the skirt, make the cone shape, pin it in place and carefully hand stitch it. You won't be able to get the machine in there to do it, so it'll have to be a hand stitch job using the same colour as your thread that you've used for the satin border. I did find that the silk skirt required some stiffening inside, so I cut a piece of pelham, and then I very carefully cut off a little bit of the fur and put that at the end of his hat, as you can see here, and stitched it in place just so that it looked like he had a fur trim at the end, and that worked a lot better than the bobbin. So here you can see how nicely it sits up with the fur around. Give it a little bit of brush and make it look nice. And then I stuffed a tiny little bit of tissue or kitchen towel, cotton wool, anything that just to bulk it up into the face part, just to give the face a slight rounded effect, and then carefully place it on the top of the cone and stitch it in place. You can see he is splendid. He is just what I had in mind when I was digitising him, something to replace those expensive oldie world Father Christmases that are available each year. Give him a couple of little sparkling eyes. If you've got really tiny blue crystals, they'd be perfect too. And you can do him on red silk dupion, or you can do him on cream felt. Lots of different options to try out, or you can go for a slightly different colour scheme. But whatever you do, however you create your Father Christmas, I'd love to see the result and how he stands proud for you in your Christmas decorations. A little bit of metallic thread too will enhance his beauty. And here you can see I managed to find some red fur to put round this Father Christmas. And I put little red stars in the middle. So these are some of the options that you have for putting your Father Christmas together, creating your version. I would just say that I haven't as yet, I've started, but I haven't as yet finished my silk velvet Father Christmas, but I'll be showing you that later. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry it wasn't a video at the end, but I have to confess that I found this partially edited video and had to quickly put it together. I hope that's inspired you. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel so that you get informed every time I upload a new video, which is my intention to inspire and challenge you and to help you take your machine embroidery to new levels. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.